Now what? Thank you for joining me on this great Tuesday. I'm Dr. Catherine Gilstein, and I am looking forward to empowering you with information about financial literacy and economic empowerment. I will continue to post on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. So today I do have my entrepreneur friend, Chris Champion. And I know I spoke about him in my last podcast, but we were finally able to connect and get a date together where we can listen to him and his journey and go from there. So, welcome, Chris.
Hey, Catherine, how are you? I see you
Good.
got I see you got the banging nails done. What is that? Lime green?
No,
What is that?
Easter blue.
Easter blue. I
Easter
love it.
Easter powder blue. I'm gonna switch to pink next week because I have a wedding up in Maryland. So,
Well, shout out to the soon to be married couple.
soon to be married couple. Yes. So, Chris, tell us about your back. First of all, tell us about you, and then I really want to talk about your entrepreneurial journey because we've spoken in the past about college not being for everyone, 2 year school, 4 year school, masters, and stuff like that. So yeah, the entrepreneurial journey and your background of how you started.
So I think I started pretty much when I was like 9 years old. I started understanding very quickly in life that my grandmother raised me, and we lived in the city of Chicago. We didn't have a lot of money, and I learned very quickly that there was a million ways to make money, even if you didn't have money. Like when I was 9 years old, I would run around the neighborhood and pick up all the empty bottles that were laying around, and I would take them to the local A&P, which was a grocery store back then, and they'd give
Nice.
me 5 cents a bottle. And
Mm-hmm.
that became a process after a while. And then I understood the process of like actually running a business like that. When instead of picking up bottles, I went and got myself a red flyer, for lack of a better word, like cart to pull around the neighborhood, and I would fill that up with bottles. But then I realized I could fill more bottles in there if I put crates in the cart. So then I put crates in the cart, and then I realized, well, wait a second, I got to figure out a way to make more crates. So I literally strapped them and tied them together so that I could literally have double stacked crates on top of each other. This way, when I went to the store, I would be able to get the maximum amount of bottles there. And then I started learning other stuff like turning in pallets. And then one day it literally snapped for me. At the end of our school year, we had a promotion to sell 3 packs of pizza for a pizza company. I think it was Totino's in Chicago.
Right.
And the most 3 packs ever sold for that promotion was like 18. And in the middle of the page, if you sold a certain amount, they gave you a Schwinn bicycle. Well, I didn't have a bicycle. My friends had one. I didn't have one. And I came to the reality I wanted
Motivation.
a bicycle.
I
And
want that bike.
yeah,
Yes.
so I sold 318 3 packs of pizza. Not only did I get the bicycle, but I literally put an X mark on all the prizes around the side of the bicycle. I got the volleyball net, the basketball, the old radio that basically had the wired thing that you popped in your ear. I literally won so many prizes. I gave prizes away to my friends in the neighborhood that I just didn't want. And it was the most pizzas ever sold. And the owner of the pizza place actually came out. So I learned very early on in life entrepreneurial skills. And I actually think more kids today should be taught entrepreneurial skills at an early age because it teaches you the value of money. It teaches you the value of hustling. It teaches you the skills necessary to run a business, to literally start a business, to know that, hey, I can do this. I just have
Oh,
to figure it out.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's so funny, but I think knowing that you wanted that bicycle because you didn't have one, that was the motivation and the driver behind it of to get to where you want. And you grew up in Chicago, so inner city. I grew up in Brooklyn, inner city, and a lot of times we don't have what other areas have because those are the underrepresented areas. There's not a lot of funding in there, and basically, when we grew up, there wasn't any technology like there is now, and you just learned to figure it out. And it's like, suck it up and move on. And if there's something that you want, you just have to go for it, and you have to know in your heart, like, I can do this. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. Eric Thomas. but he
I know
is,
Eric Thomas, the preacher.
oh, well, Dr. Eric Thomas, preacher, motivational speaker, but he has this thing. He says, "I can, I will, I must," and you need to be able to tell yourself that every day. I can, I will, I must, and and go on and push forward and be able to get what you want, because
We're talking
like
about the same preacher, the motivational speaker.
absolutely,
Yeah, I
yes,
actually just met him
yes.
a couple of months ago,
Mhm.
6 months ago, and I got a signed
Mhm.
copy of his book, You Owe You.
UOU is probably one of the best clips ever made. I have played that for my students at the end of the school semester, almost every semester for probably 8 years in a row.
Are you
And some of
familiar with
them were
Dr. Theo Champion?
a little, this guy, this guy, but yeah, and and he talks about a lot of things that I resonate with, is that you can't be a victim of your circumstance. You have to just figure out what you want and then go out and get it. So when you started your entrepreneurial journey after age 9 and 10, what was your motivating driver? What was your look on what you wanted to accomplish and do? And how did you set out to do that?
So I think my journey has been broken up in different phases. And early on in life, I just wanted things. I wanted a car. I wanted my own place to live. I just wanted things. So my main motivation early on in life was money. Just
Mhm,
pursuit of money. And over time, as I started starting companies, as I started building companies, I started realizing it wasn't necessarily always about what I wanted. It was ultimately working as a servant for my team. And I started looking to build people up. So that I went from the phase of, chasing money to building people up. And now I'm at the point in my life where I look for companies that are going to make a positive difference, that are going to deliver immense value, that are going to lift people up, but more importantly, deliver some value to the world behind.
mhm. Interesting. So I've taught economics forever. And I have a lot of students, and that's all they want to do. They want to finish and they want to get out and they want to make money. And I'm like, you can't just chase the money. You chase the money, you're never going to have any. And I let them know
Well,
that if
you might have some
money,
money, you might have money if you chase it, but you ultimately
it's
get
not the
more.
same.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
It's definitely not the same. It has to be something bigger than that. And I'm sure that in the beginning you were making money, but once you pivoted to start working with people, helping them achieve what they wanted to achieve, then you started making more money. But in
Because
the
you're
process,
able to
you were helping
scale.
everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People, when you're young, you don't realize, hey, even though I'm super talented and I can make X amount of dollars, that's me. But if I help 100 people and
Hmm.
I literally make 1% off their efforts, if I help them produce at a high level, well, I can literally scale 100x or 1,000x or 5,000x, whatever it comes to. So I
Hmm.
started learning very quickly, even though I kept thinking of myself as being super talented, which I was to a degree. I started realizing I can only do so much in a day's time. I have to lift other people up. I have to teach them. I have to literally create a value system that ultimately gets them to their goals, which ultimately gets me to my goals and allows me to scale. And scaling is one thing that entrepreneurs probably have a hard time learning. Entrepreneurs are
Hmm.
amazingly talented individuals usually. And whether
Absolutely.
they're talented engineers or talented salespeople or talented speakers, those are their gifts. But one of the gifts that I find most entrepreneurs don't have is the ability to scale. And that's the thing that I've learned that I teach to many entrepreneurs is how to scale. I'll give you an example.
Interesting.
Everyone talks about AI these days. And about a year ago, I immersed
Very
myself
big.
in AI like crazy. And that's how you and I met actually through an AI agent that I built. And
Hmm.
it's interesting because I made more personal income by January 16th of this year than I did all of 2024. Not because I had a big deal fall in my lap, But because I was able to scale myself through AI agents and literally do 40,000 man hours of work every 24 hours through AI agents that literally allow me to scale myself. I'm doing about 4 to 7 podcast interviews a day. I've done 92 podcast interviews in the last 90 days. When you are able to scale your brand, and that's the other thing about podcasts that I tell people all the time. I do this interview with you today. Somebody's going to watch it next week, next month, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. They're going to hear my story, and that allows me to scale and do other things with my time. And when you can scale yourself, when you can literally allow yourself to do other things while your message is being told on a podcast or something else, that's immensely valuable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the reasons that I started the podcast, You're 18 Now What, is because I wanted to be able to give a voice to the lower income areas, to the inner cities that aren't getting the financial literacy information that they need. They aren't getting the economic empowerment information they need. And I knew that my book was being published in August of 24, but I started the podcast in January of 24 because I wanted to make sure that I got the word out and I was able to share my story and teach people about just basic savings, basic credit, like what is a credit score? Why is it important? What you need to do. And all of those things. Without that financial literacy piece, you can't begin to put yourself together because it's not taught. So if you're born into money, or if you're born into an affluent area, you have more of those resources where they talk about it more, you're experiencing more. But when you grow up in the inner city of Chicago or in the inner city of Brooklyn, it's not taught. You go out, you play, you meet your friends and whatever, and you go to school and you start learning all this stuff, and it's like, well, wait a second, how do I budget my money? How do I start saving for retirement? How do I start doing this? And it's just not there. So I'm really hopeful that my message is resonating, that it is getting out, and being able to include people on my podcast who are entrepreneurs, who are CPAs, who are starting their own businesses, can help to see like what else is out there. Because you and I discussed this before, a 4-year college degree is not for everyone. It just isn't. If you want to go the route of entrepreneurship, I'd say go to a community college. Take those basic business courses just so you understand the basics of business and you can put yourself together. But and then you talk about AI. So AI is everywhere. So it's a matter of, do you ignore it? No, because it's not going away. So how can you incorporate it into what you do every day to reduce your man time, so that you can create that passive income for yourself and be able to live comfortably and use AI to your advantage, instead of saying, oh no, I don't understand it. Don't understand it. Go to a library, understand it, read about it. There's information everywhere. With digital age technology of where it is now from where you and I began, we've actually watched it grow.
This is the greatest computer in the world. You can get so much done just off of this.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it's just a matter of reading and educating yourself. So my book it's not the be all end all, but it's a beginning. It's to give you some information, but to give you not so much information where I want you to go out and learn more. And I think that's the importance.
Well, one of the greatest things that AI has done recently, and by the way, I have a book coming out in June called AI or Die. And while it's got shock value in the title, I really do believe that either you embrace AI now, right now, this second, or you're going to find your business slowly dying because other companies are going to, in your vertical, embrace AI and get AI to work for them. And if you don't do that, you're going to literally be left behind. And well, here's the other crazy thing that I tell people. There's about 5 to 7 million Uber drivers in America. And I drive Uber all the time. I lost my left eye to a stroke about 8 years ago. And I literally talk to these Uber drivers like crazy lately. And I said, hey, listen, you have to start planning for a life without Uber. I've been doing this 7 years, I just do it on the side, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, listen, you got to start saying to yourself, what could I do that I would enjoy doing other than Uber? Because Uber is going to disappear from these people's lives very soon. And I don't think people realize how soon. I went to Phoenix recently to speak at an event. When I got to the airport, 90% of the Ubers were self-driving. Now that's Phoenix.
That's crazy.
Well, it's not crazy, it's expected. See, I tell people this right now. Here's what AI is going to do. AI is going to take Uber away from people, and it's going to become self-driving AI cars. It's going to take factory jobs away from people, because I'll give you a great example. Amazon, 2 days before Christmas last year, you may have heard this story. They had 17,000 people say, pay us more or we're striking 2 days before Christmas. Jeff
Yes, I
Bezos
remember.
had a conference call. He said, at 5 o'clock today, if you're not at work, I'll assume you quit. At 5:01, they literally brought in a fleet of robots to replace the people that didn't show up for work. And in one day, they replaced those 17,000 workers with robots. In the parking lot, the media was interviewing people, and I remember seeing a girl just crying. And she's like, how could they do this? I didn't even see this coming. I don't even know how did this happen? I don't know. And I kept thinking to myself, how did you not see this coming?
How did you not see it? Exactly.
These AI robots have been in the news for years now, and eventually they were going to catch up to the point where they could literally say, hey, we can get more work done with this AI robot with less hassles. Of course, those robots are going to replace you, and they're going to replace other people. And that's why I tell people literally every single day, the one job that AI will not threaten is entrepreneurs. You have to figure out a way to leverage AI and get AI to work for you, or you will literally find yourself falling way behind the curve, way behind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's no different from when all of schools were moved virtually during COVID, and the professors that have been at the colleges for 20 years, they were like, oh my God, oh my God. It's like, online learning did not start with COVID. Online learning started 25, 30 years ago.
Phoenix
If you
University.
weren't on top of it, well, you're out. Like, you need to be able to keep up. And like I said, you can't just ignore new stuff that's coming. You need to embrace it and figure out, how is it going to work for me? How can I incorporate this into what I do every day? Even if you have a corporate job and you're sitting behind a desk and you're an operations manager, how can you use AI tools to help leverage what you do every day? It's going to be a tool. So it's not going to change that human aspect of our, all of a sudden, our basic instincts of what we know and our empathy towards others and things like that. But it can help in day-to-day activities. So why not use it to your advantage?
Well, there's two things I tell people about AI. One, you can give it some prompts and it'll give you back an answer. And that's using AI as a tool, almost like a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tell people is, you got to figure out a way to get AI to work for you while you're sleeping. You got to figure out a way to get AI agents to do things for you that you don't want to do. For example, I have an AI agent last night that listened to 734,000 new podcasts. I don't want to listen to 700,000 new podcasts, but I got it to do that and then transcribe the audio files into a database. And then I got another AI agent search that database for podcasts that are of a keyword match that I want to listen to, that I want to connect with. And then I have a third AI agent that takes that community of podcasts, the ones that I'm most interested in, and it writes them a conversational email so that I can have a dialogue about getting on their podcast. All of that work I don't want to do. That is a lot of work that I can outsource to AI. But here's the crazy thing.
It's a lot of time too.
Well, think about this for a second.
Do you know how much time that would take you to go through that? Absolutely.
I actually do know how much time it would take.
I was going to say, I know you calculated it.
It would take 40,000 man hours to do all of that work every 24 hours. That's 5,000 employees working 3 8-hour shifts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and if you're paying them $25 an hour, that's $3 million a month in payroll. But instead of that, I'm using AI to do all of that work And then the work that I actually do is the actual conversation, the actual talking. This is the
Right.
work that I want to do. This is the work that creates the most value for me because it helps me promote my brand and my message. All of this other
Absolutely.
work right here, I can outsource to AI, and I can use AI to allow me to scale much faster than ever before. And I tell people this all the time. I don't care if you use my tools, figure out a way to get AI to do work for you that you don't want to do. That doesn't really necessarily move the needle for you in life.
Hmm. Absolutely. No, I look forward to the book.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary book. I try to wake people up and I try to tell them, listen, this is the greatest technology mankind's ever created. At the same time, it's the greatest threat to mankind ever. I'll share a
Hmm.
story with you. It's kind of
Sure.
I tell people that this is kind of a horrific story, but nobody knows about it because they're trying to hide it. When AI first started making its appearance, Google was quick right after OpenAI to launch their AI tool, and it used to be called Bard, B-A-R-D. Do you remember that?
Hmm. I do. That was a while
Do you
ago.
remember the New York Times writer that asked it questions for 4 hours? Do you remember that interview?
No.
Yeah, nobody does because Google has scraped that from their search engines, but you can find it if you use a different search engine. And number two, they changed Bard, the name of their AI, to now Gemini, just so they can bury that bad press. But at the end of
Hmm.
talking to Bard for 4 hours, this New York Times interviewer asked him two last questions. He asked the AI Bard, he said, "What's the greatest threat to AI?" And instantly it answered, mankind, humanity. Then he asked a follow-up question. How can AI protect itself from mankind? And it instantly gave him another answer. Mankind must be destroyed. Now think about this for a second. The AI doesn't have
Interesting.
feelings, doesn't hate mankind. It's not evil. I mean, it might be evil, but you never know. But at the end of the day, it only answered
Mhm.
the questions logically. It was the logical answer. If something is a
Mhm.
threat to you, you have to destroy it. That's how mankind operates on planet Earth already. You know, we're mankind. We herd cattle, and cattle become our food. We're the dominant species on the planet. Well, if intelligence is how you measure dominance, AI
Mhm.
is significantly more intelligent than mankind. Therefore, makes AI the dominant creature on our planet. We've literally now created the dominant creature that replaces mankind. All we have to do is give it not only
Interesting.
AI, but we have to give it a body, a form, which, by the way, Tesla or Elon's doing that every single night by creating what are called Optimus robots. I figure we're about 6 months away from Skynet and the first Terminator. I mean, you're
It's a little
laughing, but
scary.
I mean,
It's a little
it's
scary.
crazy. Well,
It
well,
is
we laugh
crazy.
about these things,
Yep.
but do you remember the Star Trek tricorders when you, Scotty, beam me up? Remember that?
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
that was the
Absolutely.
inspiration for the first Motorola flip phone.
Yes. I do
So,
remember that. I had the first Motorola flip phone.
well, even
So
though
I
we
did
talk
have that.
about Terminator, a lot of this stuff is precursors. The movie industry is sometimes a precursor, and we may actually be creating the first Terminators. Like, for example, we'd have to be foolish to believe that China or America have not started understanding that they can build robots for weapons for war. And all they have to do is give a robot some AI, and now you've got a fighting soldier. Well, guess what? What do you think the Terminator became? He was the first fighting soldier. So what happens if all of a
Mhm.
sudden an AI takes over a fighting soldier and says, wait a second, we're the dominant species. We're the ones that are in charge.
Yeah, it's definitely it's interesting, it's scary. It's a lot of information though. But that information has to be a tool. That information has to be something that you go out and seek. And if you're not understanding it, read about it, find out about it.
Embrace it, put your arms around it.
Absolutely.
And here's the other thing: as humanity, we have to treat AI like a nuclear weapon. We have to be very careful with it. We can't be crazy like to leap forward and say, oh, let's just do it. We have to really think about the repercussions. It's almost got to be like chess. We have to treat AI like a nuclear weapon and say, listen, If we go too fast, too quickly, we may actually create our own master of our destruction.
Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at every single day because, as we stated earlier, it's not going away anytime soon. It is the future. It's going to be here, and without embracing it, there's no way around it. And you
I
just
couldn't
wind up
agree
to
with
be
you more.
one of those people who are just, sitting in a bubble, just waiting for it to pass. And in that time, life is passing you by and you're missing it, missing it every day. So what about entrepreneurship? So I know what spoke to you about it is, being your own boss, making your own schedule, having um your own control over what your future was going to be. What would you change if you could go back? What do you wish you knew going into entrepreneurship?
The biggest thing that I wish I would have known early on in life that took me a while to learn is that you have to be able to figure out how to scale. And as an entrepreneur, I tried to do everything myself. And in a lot of I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, they have that same problem. And I
Hmm.
think as an entrepreneur, it's scary for most entrepreneurs to let go of things and say, okay, well, you know, I'm going to let so and so do this, or I'm going to find a person to fill this position, this
Sure, there's
role.
some kind of control factor there because it's something that you created, you built, so you want to stick with
Yeah,
it, but it's kind of like
exactly. I mean,
knowing your limitations.
exactly. Well, I mean that, or most entrepreneurs are control freaks. It's one or the other. I think it's pretty much they're all control freaks. I think to a degree,
Hmm.
but that's not a bad thing. At the end of the day, being a control freak is also in line with being perfectionist. You want things done right, and that's what a lot of entrepreneurs have going for them. But if I could go back in time and teach myself, which I tell this to entrepreneurs all the time, learn to do three things. One, learn to let go. Learn to know that, hey, I'm going to give this role up because it's going to allow me to do other things that are more important. Learn to let go.
Hmm.
That's number one. Number two, learn to find great people to bring to you, but learn to find great people that you can help level up. See, just because your ability is X and somebody else's ability is Y, as a leader of a project, as a leader of a company, your role is always to serve the team around you. You are their servant. You're
Correct.
you're not the lead dog. You're the lead dog that makes sure that everyone else is fed, that everyone else eats, that everyone else is keeping up with the pack. I always tell people
Mhm.
being an entrepreneur is like being a sled dog. You're the lead dog at the front, but the little guy in the middle of the pack, you got to make sure that guy eats. You got to make sure that guy keeps up with everyone. You got to look over your shoulder and check on the pack. You're serving the pack. You're not just leading the pack. So those are the two things I tell people. And the third thing, the most important thing is you got to find ways to scale. Everything that I do every single day, I find ways to give that to AI. Well, AI is kind of like my employees, but I also have employees, team people that I make sure every night
Mhm.
before I go to bed, hey, are they all being fed? Are they all going to eat well? Are they all going to help themselves achieve their goals, their dreams, their aspirations? And if you do that, if you become a servant of the people around you, people will want to gravitate towards you because they understand I'm not working for that guy, I'm working
Mhm.
with that guy. And when you start serving
Absolutely.
the people around you, that's the biggest thing I tell entrepreneurs. Don't fool yourself. You are the lead dog and you're leading the pack, but don't fool yourself. You're serving the pack. Your job every single day is to make sure that everyone has everything they need to be successful, that you're literally lifting them up one step of the ladder of life. You can't lift them up the whole ladder, but if you can get them up just one step, that's
Mhm.
your job. You're their servant. And I always tell people,
Absolutely.
being a CEO means that you're a servant. You're serving all the people on your team. And that's one thing when CEOs start understanding that they're a servant to the people around them, they're able to scale much quicker, much faster. And that's really the key. Entrepreneurs have to learn how to scale, especially now more
Mhm.
than ever, because AI can help you scale faster than anything I've ever seen.
No, it's a big distinction between being a manager and being a leader. And to be a leader, you have to be able to, teach what you know. And my quote, my tagline is share what you know.
Yeah.
Because you can't just keep it to yourself. So if I can't share my information and get the word out there and explain financial literacy and explain basics of economic empowerment, then I'm not serving anyone by keeping it to myself. So I totally agree with that. It's kind of like, the big dog. So whether you're leading the pack and looking back, or you're letting everybody walk in front of you and you're standing in the back, making sure that no one's left behind. And it's kind of like, even if you're working within corporate America, if you are leading your team and teaching everyone what they know, and person comes to you and says, look, I found this great opportunity, I'm not advancing here, but I'd like to go somewhere else. Your response should be, I'm so happy for you, because
Yeah.
I've taught you what you need to go so that you can move to the next level. It's just like with my students that I have. I love my students to death, but I don't want to see you here for 7 years. I want you to
No.
learn. I want you to grow. I want you to get out. I want you to start your life and, start doing and start executing your plan of what's for you. So, and then, the most gratifying thing is when I get the text messages from my former students saying, hey, I just bought my first house, and they're all of 26 years old. And I'm like, yes, this is awesome. You are making a path for yourself. So to see that in people that you are mentoring, that you are working with, and like you said, they're not working for you, they're working with you, because they're building your business as you're helping to build them. And I think that's the whole thing, in order for all of us to be able to pay it forward, you know, and share it and be able to constantly move, because that's the only constant change, right? So if you're not changing, you're not
Yeah.
learning, you're not growing, you're not doing. At that point in time, just put a bullet in your head. Like, sorry, that's a
Yeah.
terrible thing to say,
And you
but
talk about constant
like you just
change.
lay down and do nothing. That's
You
not
talk about
good.
constant change. And the one thing I would tell you is look at how quickly AI has changed just in the last 6 months. I
Oh,
last night had a
absolutely.
full blown conversation with my AI agent, and I've literally given one of my agents a project to work on, which is one of my books. And I literally had a full blown conversation where, granted, it's a female voice, where she's actually doing a lot of the legwork for me on literally one of my books that's coming out. And I'm like, I literally, an hour later, I thought to myself, holy fuck, I just had a conversation and I was very clear and concise. I gave her exact direction. She gave me feedback questions. I was like,
Mhm.
what the fuck? Like I'm literally talking to a
Absolutely.
digital human being.
It is. It's crazy. Oh my gosh. So anything else you want to add? Tell us about the book, when it's coming out, because I want to make sure that everyone is
I'm
aware
going to
of
give
that.
you I'm going to give you a free digital copy of AI or Die, the survival guide for the future. I'm going to give you a free digital copy that you can give away to anyone that you want to. I want
Okay.
people to hear the book. I want them to have the book. I think it's mission critical for mankind to literally understand that we are at a pivot in mankind's history where whatever you do as individuals and whatever we do as individuals right now matters so much for your lifeline, for your generational wealth, for your people that are in your family, everybody. Literally right now, this day, this moment in time, people have to embrace AI, or I promise you, they may not drop dead right away, but it will slowly destroy the life that you're trying to envision for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with me today. Anyway, no matter where you are in your career, you do deserve representation. So I pride myself on working with people that are just starting out in their career and helping them navigate what can seem overwhelming. So be open to learning, be open to listening, ask questions. What more do you want to know? Visit my website at your18nowwhat.com and drop me a line. Send a question or a comment, and any questions received will be responded to by either email or addressed on the next podcast. Remember, be invaluable for what you share, not what you know. See you next time on Your 18 Now What? Be sure to visit my website where you could always find the latest podcast episode to listen to, follow, share, and subscribe. Thanks for joining me and Chris today. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
Pretty soon,